Dear students, from this class onwards, let us study the subject law and practice of income tax 1. To understand this subject clearly, we have to study 5 important components. In other words, the present law, that is law and practice of income tax 1, contains 5 important aspects. One is Income Tax Act 1961 as amended up to date. Second one is Income Tax Rules 1962 as amended up to date. Third one is notifications and circulars issued by the CBDT. Fourth one is the Finance Act. And the last one is judicial decisions. A combination of all these 5 elements will make a complete study of the law and practice of income tax 1. That means, to understand the law and practice of income tax 1, we have to know all these aspects to some extent at least. Then the question is, what the Indian Income Tax Act 1961 contains. In the beginning itself, keep it in mind that Income Tax Act 1961 is the main enactment that you are studying in this semester. And what this act contains? So this act contains the computation or determination of the total income of a assessee, levy of the income tax, provisions related to appeals, provisions related to penalties, and also the authority or the powers and authority of various income tax authorities. So all these important aspects are covered under the Income Tax Act 1961. In addition to this, as I already explained in the previous class, to make a clear study or complete study of any act, we have to study the related rules also. So here, to completely understand Income Tax Act 1961, we have to know the provisions related to Income Tax Rules 1962 also. Now the question is, what are income tax rules? See, for the purpose of implementation of any act, rules are very, very important. Here, the responsibility of implementation of the Income Tax Act 1961 is vested in the hands of Central Board of Direct Taxes, simply called CBDT. So, the authority to frame rules for the purpose of implementation of the Indian Income Tax Act 1961 is given to Central Board of Direct Taxes, that is CBDT. So by making use of the power which is given to CBDT under section 295 of the Indian Income Tax Act, CBDT has already framed hundreds of rules for the purpose of implementation of the Indian Income Tax Act 1961. Keep it in mind that as per section 295 of the Indian Income Tax Act, CBDT can frame any rule, and these rules can be given even retrospective effect also. But any rule framed by the CBDT must conform to the jurisdiction of the Indian Income Tax Act 1961. That means the rules framed by the CBDT cannot override the provisions of the Indian Income Tax Act 1961. They should be within the framework of the Indian Income Tax Act 1961. So CBDT has already framed hundreds of rules, and there are hundreds of sub-rules also. So along with the study of Income Tax Act 1961, we have to study these rules that are called Income Tax Rules 1962. Then only we can understand the subject income tax clearly. Otherwise, our understanding will be incomplete. Now, the third aspect of the present legislation is notifications and circulars issued by CBDT. See, just now I told you that the highest authority or the supreme authority as far as Income Tax Act 1961 is concerned is Central Board of Direct Taxes. See, if any dispute arises between the taxpayers and the department, to settle these disputes, to redress these disputes, some guidelines will be issued by the CBDT in the form of notification and circulars. So this power is given to CBDT under section 119 of the Indian Income Tax Act. So by making use of the power given under section 119 of the Indian Income Tax Act, CBDT is issuing the circulars from time to time. And these circulars are in the form of guidelines, and these guidelines are binding on the part of the income tax authorities, and they should obey any guideline given by the CBDT, and they should try to redress the disputes between the department and the taxpayers. So a knowledge of these circulars and notifications is also relevant to understand the Indian Income Tax Act 1961 completely. Then follows the Finance Act. As you are aware, the Finance Minister of the central government will present the budget every year, usually on the last day of February, unless there are imperative reasons to present the budget on some other day. That means, usually, budget will be presented to the Parliament on the last day of the February as a custom. So in the budget, the Finance Minister will announce the various policies of the government regarding direct and indirect taxes. To give effect to the changes in the direct and indirect taxes made by the Finance Minister, he will move a bill called Finance Bill. And this Finance Bill also contains the income tax rates applicable to the current assessment year. Once the Finance Bill is moved by both the Houses of Parliament and it receives the consent of the President of India, it becomes Finance Act. So we have to study a part of the Finance Act also, at least to know what are the various changes made in the direct taxes and what are the rates of income tax applicable for the current assessment year. At least for this reason, we have to study the Finance Act. Then only we can completely understand our subject. Then one more component of the present legislation is judicial decisions. That means some of the aspects are clear by the Supreme Court of India or sometimes High Courts related to different states. So these judicial decisions must also be considered while studying the subject Income Tax Act 1961, because any decision given by the Supreme Court will become law ultimately. That's why a knowledge of the various judicial decisions rendered by the Supreme Court as far as Income Tax Act is concerned is also relevant to understand the subject very clearly. So with this background, let me come to various basic concepts of the Indian Income Tax Act 1961, which is for your first module or first chapter. Then what are the various basic concepts we have to study to understand the subject? The first one is we have to study the meaning of the term person. Secondly, we have to study the meaning of the term assessee. Then we have to study the meaning of the term assessment year, meaning of the term previous year, and various exceptions to the previous year, and the meaning of the agricultural income, meaning of the gross total income, meaning of the income itself, and meaning of the total income. So like that, there are various basic concepts under the IT Act 1961. In order to understand the subject, these basic concepts must be clearly understood by a student. Okay, let me explain the first basic concept. See, the very first basic concept that one should study is term person, and this term person is defined under section 2, subsection 31 of the Indian Income Tax Act. See, as a first step to understand the term person, let us see what is the main provision of the Indian Income Tax Act. See, the provision of the Indian Income Tax Act is every person whose total income of the previous year exceeds basic exemption limit or maximum tax free limit should pay income tax at the rates applicable to the relevant assessment year. This is the most important provision of the Indian Income Tax Act. Let me repeat. Every person whose total income of the previous year exceeds basic exemption limit should pay income tax at the rates applicable to the assessment year. So when the provision says every person whose total income exceeds basic exemption limit should pay income tax, the question is, who is a person then? So if we are very clear about the term person, then we can say who has to pay income tax and who need not pay income tax. So that's why the meaning of the term person becomes very, very important. Then where we can find the meaning of the term person? Say the term person is defined under section 2, subsection 31 of the Indian Income Tax Act. See, this definition given in section 2, subsection 31 is not an exhaustive one. It is an inclusive one. That means section 2, subsection 31 simply says what are the various entities included in the term person. Then who are the various entities included in the term person as per section 231? Let us see in detail. As per section 231, the first entity is an individual. An individual is a person. Second one, a Hindu undivided family. Then third one, a firm. Then fourth one, a company. Number 5, an association of persons or body of individuals. Number 6, a local authority. Number 7, every artificial juridical person not falling within any of the above 6 categories. See, all these are called person for the purpose of Income Tax Act 1961. Let us have a brief explanation about these entities. So first one, according to section 231, an individual is a person. Who is an individual? Every human being, whether male or female, minor or major, whoever he or she may be, every human being is called a person according to section 231. So every individual or human being, if his or her total income exceeds basic exemption limit during the previous year, should pay income tax. So this is applicable for all these entities also. Then second one is a Hindu undivided family. So Hindu undivided family simply means a joint Hindu family according to Hindu Succession Act 1956. A joint Hindu family can be called a Hindu undivided family simply, so that Hindu undivided family is also a person and a HUF, Hindu undivided family, also should pay income tax. Then a firm means partnership firm. So a partnership firm means a firm established under the Indian Partnership Act of 1932 or a limited liability partnership firm established under the Limited Liability Partnership Firm Act 2008. Then what is the meaning of the partnership firm? So you have to refer to section 4 of the Indian Partnership Act of 1932. So there you will find the meaning of the firm. Anyway, it is not so important for people at this point of time. Simply remember, every firm is also a person and every firm should also pay income tax. Then a company, you know better what is the meaning of a company. Company means an artificial person created by law. So under the Indian Companies Act of 1956, so recently it is amended, okay, in the year 2013. So any artificial person created under these laws can be called company, and company will be having perpetual succession and a common seat. So simply an artificial person created under law with perpetual succession and common seat can be called company, and every company is also a person and company should also pay income tax. Then an association of persons or body of individuals. Then what is an association of persons? Association of persons means coming together of two or more persons with the objective of earning the income. So for the purpose of earning the income, if two or more persons join together, that can be called an association of persons. And you have to observe here that an association of persons may contain human beings and non-human beings also, because as per section 231, all these are called persons. When all these are persons, association of persons may include human beings or non-human beings also. For example, say an individual called Raghavendra may form an association of persons with a company ABC Limited. So if Raghavendra and ABC Limited join together for the purpose of earning some income, it can be called an association of persons, because it is the combination of two or more persons, that's all. Then body of individuals. What is the meaning of the body of individuals? Body of individuals means it is the conglomeration, group of individuals. So this group is also formed for a common purpose of earning the income. Then what is the difference between association of persons and body of individuals? The only difference is, in case of association of persons, there may be human beings or non-human beings. But in case of body of individuals, so it is formed only by the human beings. Only individuals can form this one, that is body of individuals. So this association of persons or body of individuals, so they should also pay income tax. Then local authority. Local authority means local governments, maybe city corporations, Zilla Panchayats, Cantonment Board, Gram Panchayat, by whatever name called. So all these local authorities, so they are also called persons according to section 231, and they should also pay income tax. The last one, every artificial juridical person not falling within any of the above 6 category. That means here under the title every artificial juridical person, all the entities, remaining entities, that means the entities excluding first 6 are included. You take the example of an university, or you take the corporation like Life Insurance Corporation of India, okay, even God and Goddess. So all these, because they are not here under first 6 category, they are excluded, and all such entities which have been excluded from the first 6, so they are included under the last category called every artificial juridical person. So like an university or the corporations like Life Insurance Corporation of India, or even God and Goddess, so they should also pay income tax. Dear students, if you clearly study this definition of a person given in section 231, you feel that nobody on the earth is spared from paying income tax. Everybody, every entity on the earth should pay income tax. See, all human beings and non-human beings are included in the definition of the term person in section 231. That's why some say that 2 things are certain in life. One is paying taxes, second one is death. So this definition clearly shows that nobody is exempted from paying income tax and every entity has to pay income tax.